Hi, and welcome to the SaVeg Podcast. I'm Rose, and I'm a content creator going by the handle Cheap Lazy Vegan, and I also own a vegan cafe by the same name as the podcast, which is SaVeg Cafe.
And I'm Daniel, also a vegan, and one of your favorite guest stars on Cheap Lazy Vegan's YouTube channel.
We're two friends currently living in different countries, and we'll be giving our savage take on all things life, veganism, and the latest trending topics.
So basically, whatever comes to our minds, because we love to talk.
You are currently listening to the previous episode of this podcast, but if you would like to listen to this week's episode and get some exclusive content, go over to patreon.com/thesavagepodcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the SaVeg Podcast.
Hey, guys. Hope everyone is doing well, staying safe, staying sane during this...
crazy ass time.
Yeah. Although, things are starting to open up a bit. So I think globally, things are starting to get a little better, maybe more promising. I don't know. I'm trying to be optimistic here.
Maybe by the time this podcast goes to the public, it will be calmed down completely. Who knows?
Oh, gosh.
Maybe it'll just magically go away.
It could just, you're sounding like me, Rose. Magically disappear. God damn.
Maybe the first half of 2020 was pretty shit, so the second half is going to be fantastic.
Exactly. I was thinking about this the other day, and after I come back to Calgary and because I have to do 2 weeks quarantine when I'm back in Calgary, and I've worked it out that I think I've spent almost a third of this year already in some form of
quarantine.
Lockdown. Yeah. How crazy is that?
Well, I mean, to be fair, you're not the only one.
No, true. And the thing
Yes.
is even if I hadn't been in such a strict isolation/lockdown, there's still so many what is it called? Restrictions. I can't even think of words.
Right.
God damn.
Oh God, help us for this podcast.
I know, because it's our second one we're recording today. So
yeah, today we're recording. This is the second one because in the morning we recorded our Patreon exclusive. Mm-hmm. So head on over to Patreon, guys, if you want to listen to that exclusive.
Exactly. It'd be juicy.
Now today, is it though?
No, not really.
I mean, all our Patreon exclusives are very juicy, and we get raw and real.
Yeah.
Not that we're not raw and real here, but you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Today's episode. What is the topic, Daniel? Would you like to introduce us as our executive producer?
Oh, I would. Oh gosh, I love that. I'm the executive producer. That's cool. Anyway, so today we are discussing. So we mentioned this a while ago on several of our podcast episodes. So there was an Audible book that me and Rose both listened to called. I can't remember if it's Modern Love or Modern Romance. I'm so bad for this.
It's Modern Romance.
That's
now
right.
I know for a fact because
okay.
I kept saying it wrong. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. It was. You kept saying Modern Love, and it's called Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari. So yeah, it's a really, really, really good listen. Highly, highly recommend it. So we are Audible affiliates. So if you head on over to audibletrial.com/thesavagepodcast, you can get access to a free book, whatever one you choose. And then if you want to continue with Audible, feel free. However, if you do want to cancel after, that's totally up to you. And because we are affiliates, we do get a little bit of a commission from that. So any support is greatly appreciated.
Daniel's having a hard time today, guys. But anyways, he's right. There is a link in the show notes and in the description if you guys want to get a free audiobook. But we're going to be discussing this book because it's very interesting. And to give you a little summary of what this book is about, it is basically a book which explores the concept of dating and romance and marriage and love within the context of time, I guess you could say. Yeah. So it kind of talks about how the dating world and the world of romance has changed throughout the last few generations. Exactly. And what it looks like today and some of the struggles, also some of the good things about the romance world today.
Exactly. So there's definitely some I don't want anyone to think that this is going to be a very negative, because there's a negative podcast because there's definitely some positives with the dating scene today, but then also it kind of, you're right, it outlines some of the kind of issues and things that also go on, but also the positives as well of this era of dating. And actually for somebody like myself, this is actually very, very timely because I'm going back to Calgary where I will be single as fuck, and I will be entering the dating world there. So, I can take some pointers if anyone has any advice that they want to give, send my way to my very unsuccessful love quest so far.
Oh, goddamn, Daniels!
I know. Goddamn.
Are you gonna go straight into the dating world?
Probably not. If I'm honest.
Well, you got to do the 2-week quarantine first.
Exactly. So when I get there, I have to quarantine because I could be a carrier of this silent enemy, So who knows? But yeah,
oh my God, no! It's the invisible enemy. I can't. Anyways, oh God, no. Well, I think that you're going to be bored during your 2-week quarantine, and you're going to download some apps, perhaps.
Are you assuming that I don't have those apps already on my phone, Rose?
Oh, I mean. All right, you guys. God. So I think Daniel has a little maybe agenda for us. This might be separated into a few different episodes because there's a lot of things to discuss. Mm-hmm. And as you guys know, we like to go on and on and on, and we like to go into different topics, and we just like to chat.
Exactly.
Buckle up, guys. Buckle up.
Buckle up. You're in for a little treat. This podcast episode. So I don't know what the best way to do this, because basically what I did is I just kind of like listened to the book, took some notes on different chapters and things like that. So I thought we'll just go through it and see where this journey takes us.
Okay, sure.
Starting with the beginning, which the first kind of like topic is all about searching for your soulmate. Now, the interesting thing here is this idea of a soulmate or who you get married to has substantially changed in the last kind of decade. You know what I mean? Like back before, and I want to get your thoughts on this. So back before, maybe our parents, or maybe even more so like our grandparents' generation, people married typically very young and very quickly. And part of the reason for that is, and this was like some part of it, but part of the reason is women, especially, they were they might have lived with their parents, and they weren't technically supposed to like leave their parents' house and get that kind of level of independence until they married somebody else and left and went to live with their husband, right? But a lot of the like women would say, even when they got married and moved into their husband's house, it's like things didn't really change from them living with their parents as much. Do you know what I mean? They didn't get as much freedom as they wanted. And a lot of the marriages in the past, back then, it was like more a marriage of, and I don't want to like discredit people's marriages from this time, because this is not what I mean, but like back then it was more of a marriage of like almost like necessity, or like kind of like a way of, again, gaining that freedom, versus finding somebody that you feel essentially like an initial like connection, and also somebody that might complement you and have that level of like equality and stuff within the relationship, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Is that okay? Should I interject? I don't know.
Interject, Rose.
How are we going to do this, Daniel? You seem to be struggling a little bit. Can I help you?
Yes, you can help me. Go for it. I'm struggling today, guys.
Are you reading the notes, or are you just kind of going off?
I'm going off on tangents, reading some of these notes. One stat that kind of exemplifies this, and let's get into this topic right after.
Okay, sure.
So the stat that exemplifies this, which is I found shocking. Like this actually blew my mind, is the fact that so they did like a focus group with some like older people in, I think it was like Philadelphia, or somewhere in the States, and basically they found out that at this like old folks home that they were doing this survey with, a lot of the people that were married, they married someone who was within a walking distance of their childhood home. And in some cases, it was people that lived in the same building as like their parents, or like literally were like next door neighbors to them. And it was.
Do we know the percentage?
Yeah. So it said that 1/3 lived within the same neighborhood. 1/6 lived within the same block. And 1/8, so 1/8 of that number lived within the same building.
Right.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's not really crazy if you think about it, because at that time, especially when it was like how many years ago was that? It's quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
And at that time, not everybody went to university. Not everybody had a chance to travel. We're all just kind of within the space that we're in. We're just within this, little bubble, if you will. So that's where you meet people.
True.
And people have this concept of like, let's talk about the soulmate thing, because the whole concept of soulmate, the whole concept of romanticism and like romance, that kind of like really passionate love, that's actually quite new. They say that historically speaking, if you look at the history of humans, it's actually really, really a new phenomenon. This idea that we have to like love each other so much and like everything has to align, and you know, we're sitting there just like looking at each other with like lovey-dovey eyes. Like that's a very new concept.
Yeah.
So especially, and it's obviously become more of a concept now that especially now women have a chance to, you know, be independent financially. You know, we have a chance to live, you know, alone even. Crazy, right? So now we can choose rather than be almost obliged to get married.
It's interesting because one of the things that they said in this book as well was talking about, you know, like about 50 years ago, people were really satisfied with what they called a companion marriage. So what he meant by that, it was like everyone had like very, very defined roles within the relationship. So the man was the breadwinner. He would go to the office and work and do whatever else. The women kept the house and raised the kids. And the satisfaction, I guess, or the fulfillment that they would get from that relationship is how well they were able to complete their defined roles, right? Whereby that, I think part of it is our definition of relationships are changing, but also I think part of it is also the economic factors have also come into play as a huge, huge part here, because I think, like, you know, back 50 years ago, you know, women, it wasn't a necessity necessarily for women to work. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, you know, whereas now it's becoming more and more common, and actually more and more it's a need. Like you have to have both partners working in order to support a household.
Yeah. And also the fact that it wasn't even really appropriate for women to work at that time.
Exactly.
You know, women weren't expected to work, and also it wasn't a necessity. So it's both of those factors. It's like women, you know, the expectation was that the woman stays home with the kids and does the housework. And because that's already that's the clearly defined role that we've already accepted to have, it doesn't mean that everyone was happy with it. Of course not, which is why things have changed. But, you know, if that is the social expectation, people are just going to do it without questioning. But now we have all these choices, which we're going to talk about all of that for.
Oh God, the choices, yeah.
So some of the good things that came out of this kind of the older, concept of marriage and love is that people were more satisfied because they had less expectations, essentially.
Yes, yeah. This is a huge thing, because it's like, what is that saying? There's like an expression, but it's like if you set your expectations low. Not saying that you should necessarily do this, but the lower you set your expectations, no matter what happens, if it kind of whatever's going on is like at least kind of meets those expectations, or even goes a little bit above those expectations, you're going to be like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Yep. But you're right, because we've seen this shift where we're like looking now for like more our soulmates, our life partners, our other half, as we like to say. The expectation has changed so much from just being like, I want somebody that has a good job. That's not enough anymore. I want somebody that has a good
somebody like. You want somebody that has a good job and you can kind of get along with. Yeah. You know, that was like the expectation maybe before.
Yeah. As long as you can get along at a bare minimum level and they had a good job, boof, it was fine. I had a fantastic marriage. You got kids. And it was funny because like they did say though too, is like, we're not saying that all of these marriages were like loveless. Like of course some of them were, but a lot of people in this generation, they grew to love each other. You know what I mean? They were together for so long. And even though they might not have had the passion, or maybe they did, but they didn't have the same, what am I trying to say? Like nowadays, when you meet somebody, and if it is like that connection on a soulmate level, you feel more fulfilled, I feel like, from that relationship than in the past.
Now, what they say is that it is much harder to find that, really passionate love that everyone seems to want now. Everyone has these high expectations. Maybe it's Hollywood, maybe it's all the movies, maybe it's so much of culture and everything just intertwined. And we expect some sort of extremely passionate, amazing love. Everything is fantastic.
True.
We have so much in common, and so like we have the exact same humor and everything's just perfect. So we expect something that is very difficult to find. So is it fantastic if you find it? Of course. Yeah. The chances of you finding it, though, is going to be very rare. Yeah. And so everyone else that doesn't find it, maybe like 10% of people find it, right? Yeah. And then everyone else that doesn't find it is going to be less fulfilled in that relationship. So we're constantly looking for that 10%.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
No, exactly.
Whereas reality is most people can probably, if they have certain, relatively, realistic expectations, then most people can probably find something that's, reasonably good. And you're right. Like there's so much to say about learning to love somebody. It's not that you have to force it, but usually, I mean, I don't know about you, but like after you spend a bit of time with somebody, unless they're horrible people, you probably get fond of each other. And if you're, you're both straight and you're of the opposite sex, then there's a high chance that you're going to feel feelings for each other later on down the line if you can get along. And same with you. Like if you were with, let's say you were friends with a gay guy for a very long time, and then you might end up feeling something for each other, even though initially there was no spark. Yeah, as we like to call
that
it.
That initial spark. That flame.
Which is so overrated, but we're all looking for it because of, I don't know, so much indoctrination. I don't know, so much Hollywood influence. I don't know. Yeah,
it's interesting because they were also mentioning like, you're exactly what you said. Like these soulmate marriages, like finding your soulmate. I think within that, if you are one of the lucky ones, that 10%, because it's a lot harder to find your soulmate. If you're that lucky 10%.
There's no such thing as a soulmate, just putting that out there, but continue. Do you believe in a soulmate, Daniel?
I'm going to agree to disagree with you on this one, Rose, because I do. Okay.
Oh, you believe in a soulmate?
I don't want it to come across. Okay. I don't believe in a soulmate per se. What I believe in, I don't think that there's just necessarily one person for me out in the world. You know what I mean? Like I think that there's lots, but I think we have lots of different soulmates across the world. I don't think that there's one person in this entire world for me, but I think we have lots of soulmates. So I think that it's still a thing.
Oh, you're so cute. Yeah. I mean, I think there's lots of people that we can potentially fall in love with. Yeah. And lots of people that we can connect with. I think soulmate is a very, cute fairy tale way of looking at love.
Maybe honestly, Rose, maybe this is my issue.
That's probably why you're single.
Exactly. I come into this with this like kind of like, I don't know, puppy dog eyes. Hopeless romantic. And then I just get my heart trampled on and just like horrible things happen to me.
The issue is exactly this. The issue is exactly what we're talking about. And the same with me and same with you is that we expect the butterflies. We expect this, this instant connection, instant spark. But it's I've almost never had that. Yeah. So, but I have had situations where, I spend some more time with somebody and then I develop feelings over time, which happens much more frequently than the other way around. Very rarely do I like feel an instant connection. And even if I do, later on, I'm disappointed.
I think this is the thing. I think this is actually something that I'm like a point that I'm going to take on board for my own dating when I get back to Calgary. But it was also mentioned, Aziz had said in the book, he like was doing the same like dating pattern. Like he was going out to clubs until like 3 a.m, getting drunk, meeting people. And he was like, hey, I need to change my pattern of what I'm doing. Like, maybe go to a place and go home by 11 or whatever. Like, don't stay out so late because the people that like generally, if you're staying out late and other people are staying out late, you're going to meet only certain types of people. And he also said, if you go on a date with somebody, like we're all looking for that, like you said, that spark, right? But like 99.99999% of the time, you're not going to get that on a first date. And he said like, and like, I echo what you said. It's like, I've been on many dates and like, there's been I think I've maybe had one that I actually had that spark. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. But most of them, it's like, if you go on a few more dates, then you might get that potential. And he said, like, for example, he went on a date with a girl, and let's say the date he rated it 8 out of 10, had a great time, whatever else, he wants to date them again. But most of the dates are 6s or 7s out of 10s, and he's always looking for that 8 or 9. But he's like, if I went out with a girl the first night, it was a 6 out of 10. Then we go on the second date, we're both a bit more comfortable with each other, loosened up a little bit. All of a sudden, that 6 out of 10 becomes now an 8 or 9 out of 10. So if you start like giving people a little bit more of a chance and maybe not writing them off right away, and thinking of that, again, that elusive spark and thinking, okay, actually maybe, and I'm guilty of this as well. Like I've been on many, I call them like one date.
You are incredibly guilty of this.
I'm so bad. I call them one date wonders. This is the thing. Like I'll go on one date and then I'm just like, that wasn't so great. I don't think I'm going to go out with them again. But I've had some really bad experiences as well. So those are legit. Yes. Like those ones
I was talking to my friends about this, and I feel like you should have a 3-date rule. Yeah. So the rule is that unless the first date was absolutely awful, okay? So if the person was like awful, then obviously don't go out with them again. But there's so many dates where you're right. It's like maybe even a 5 or 6.
Exactly.
It's just kind of like really mediocre. But also you just don't know each other yet.
Exactly. Well,
you've literally spent 3 hours together and all of a sudden you decide you just write them off. I mean, again, I'm guilty of this, but so that's the rule, Daniel. 3 dates minimum.
Oh God. Sometimes
what a waste of time of my life.
We're so bad though.
I say this shit, but it's so, but you know what's so annoying? Let me just go on a little tangent.
Just please.
Go on a little rant.
Yeah.
Okay. What's really annoying and inevitable is that when you're younger, you're just kind of, I guess it's the same, if you work in an office in a way, but when you're younger and you're in school, right, you're spending a lot of time with your classmates and, you just end up, like we said, you just spend time with each other and then you end up liking somebody. Maybe you have a little crush, which I used to get. Yeah. I haven't had a crush in many years because I just don't have that opportunity. Like a real crush, when you just like spend time with each other and then you just kind of like, feel like, you feel those feelings. It's different from when you date. I feel like it's different.
Exactly. Okay? Yeah.
So of course I've dated and stuff in the recent years, but the feeling of a crush is a different feeling. Yeah. And it's so hard to find in the modern dating sphere because of exactly those reasons, because you don't want to go on like 20 dates with somebody to find out that you're not into them. And also the idea that you're going on a date, you already have this, it's already implied that you are meeting romantically.
Exactly.
So it's not that you're meeting very organically, like you're just, spending time together in a classroom or maybe you're working together. But the fact is that you're going on a date. So you already expect and you're already looking for those certain things that you want. So if they don't have those things, you're going to be disappointed and you're going to say, okay, no, next.
This is the thing. And it's so hard. Like I've always had a dream, not a dream, or like a fantasy or whatever of being able to meet somebody organically. And I think because like the thing is especially like when I was going through uni and stuff, I like went out all the time. I had such large groups of friends and like, if I wasn't able to meet somebody organically, then it's like, okay, now my like social sphere is getting smaller and smaller as I'm getting older. And so I'm just like, I don't know. It's
harder and harder.
Yeah. Cause I would have loved to, like, don't get me wrong. Like, okay, we've all been on the dating apps, blah, 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 blah. But it would have been so nice just to like have a good friend, like you said, that maybe you studied with, or maybe you worked with, and you started growing feelings for each other. And like organically it formed into a relationship from a friendship. And then, you've ended up getting married and having some little babies,
But then within the modern, world, people still have high expectations, and then maybe you feel like you're missing out. Like, let's say you met someone in university, right? Specifically you, Daniel. Let's say you met somebody in university, and you guys just, had a crush on each other, and then you fell in love, and then you got into a relationship, and then, later on, maybe you wanted to get married, but then you realize you're like, oh my God, I haven't experienced modern dating, and then you're like, oh, those people are just going out and meeting different people. What if I pick the wrong person? What if there's something better out there? And then that might ruin a relationship as well.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, they did say, there was like a stat or something, again, I'm not going to quote it exactly because I don't remember, but it was like saying something like around people that marry under, I think it was 25 or 26, people that marry before that, reaching that age are like, people that marry after 25 or 26, so you're into your older 20s, are far less likely to get divorced than those that marry, in like around uni time, or let's say I met somebody in uni and ended up marrying them. And like, I don't know, like
that's not surprising at all, is it?
No, not at all. And I know people, like I'm obviously not going to name any names, but like I know people that have already like our age and already are onto their either coming up to their second marriage or are divorced, So
yeah.
Like it definitely happens.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It definitely happens. Yeah. I mean, but one of the good things about the modern, world of romance or whatever is that, we do have that choice. So in some ways it is good. It's not like everyone wants to get married. It's not like everyone wants, that family life. And I feel like women are less pressured. There's still pressure, but I think compared to back when, our grandparents were alive or our grandparents were young, or back when even our parents were young, there's so much pressure for especially young women, but not all just young women, but everybody. There was so much pressure for young women to get into a marriage immediately.
Yeah. No,
and they
exactly.
might be in an abusive marriage. They might be in a really, really shitty situation, but it's hard for them to get out. It's hard for them to get divorced. It's very frowned upon. So in some ways, it is better this way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think so. I think, and I don't want to speak on behalf of like all those marriages from the past and stuff, but I do think, by a lot of like, especially like in Canada and stuff, empowering women and without now that women are able to work and, kind of be keepers of their own destiny, so to speak. And they're not as much as like, cause in the past it was more like, if you were yourself and your parents are married and then you can't leave the house until you marry another guy, it's almost like you're just being passed off. You know what I mean? Like to somebody, just as someone else's like almost not like kind of like property.
Well, think about sorry to interrupt, but think about the concept of a wedding, right? Even in a wedding, you walk down the aisle with your dad and then he passes you off to your husband.
Yeah.
So that tradition came from the idea that a woman is only someone's property, essentially.
And in addition to that, obviously this is now changing with the times as well, but you as the woman, you're the one that has to change your last name, not the man.
Exactly.
You are now part of his family. So it's like,
shit.
Oh, god damn, Rose. This big crazy.
It's messed up.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to do when you walk down the aisle, Daniel? Is your dad going to pass you off? Are you going to wear the white dress?
Oh, god damn. I'll look damn good in a white dress, Rose.
Well, you would look good in a white dress.
No, I actually haven't even thought about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's just, I guess I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. I don't know. I'm probably not going to have like a traditional wedding per se.
I mean, nothing about a gay wedding is traditional, but it would still be fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it would look good if one guy wore white, like a white suit, and then one guy wore a black suit. That would look really cute.
Yeah, that would be cool, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe like both your parents can like walk you down the aisle, and that would be cute.
Oh, well, Rose, maybe when I get to that stage, you can help me and be my assistant wedding planner.
Can I be your brass? What do you call it? Can I be your not bridesmaid, maid of honor?
Are you assuming
I better be your motherfucking maid of honor.
Oh, god damn. The nails are out. No, of course. Come on. Let's not even kid about it.
God, I'll be your flower girl as well.
Oh, damn. Rose, you're going to be multiple people in the ring bearer, the flower. You're going to be running around that wedding like crazy.
I sing in your wedding too.
Oh yeah, you
God
can
damn,
sing.
you don't need to hire nobodies.
You can be the piano player. You can do the social media, the photography.
Oh God. The videographer.
I'd rather you just be getting drunk with me and enjoying it.
Oh yes, that I can definitely do. That is a task I'm willing to take on.
Okay, good. What we do best,
Oh God.
God damn.
Okay. Okay. So there we go. What else?
So that we kind of like talk. God damn. So yeah, we talked about
no. Another point I want to make.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that basically, essentially, the reason why back in the day people met people within the confines of a geographical space. Mm-hmm. And also got married really quickly and got married, maybe easily, very young, is also because of that concept of choice, because they didn't have that much choice, because it's not like right now where we're kind of living in this, like, just this giant country that we call Earth, right? Everything is very interconnected and it's very easy for us to travel. It's very easy for us to be connected to each other. We can call each other over Skype. We can talk to people from anywhere in the world. And at that time, you couldn't. You could only choose people that were within your geographical location. So that's another reason why they were easily able to, there's so many factors, but that's why a lot of people got married early and marry people within the confines of their space.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they also talk about like how they met people changed drastically. So, when we did get this period of time where women started to move into the workplace and started to go to more to universities and things, we saw that shift of like in the past, it would be like your neighbor that you met because, again, as a woman in your house, maybe you didn't get the liberties of going to travel and do all this stuff. You were always with your family. So it would be like your parents were your matchmaker. Maybe you met them at church. That was another big place that they met people. And it would just be and again, again, these are things that you're doing in your local community versus a little bit later, when more and more women were going to university, they were, and they'd meet their partners there maybe, or at their first job. So it kind of shifted a little bit. It was interesting because they also mentioned this concept, and I think this is another like really, really big one. And it's called emerging. It was like emerging adulthood. So it was saying about how we as a society, like now, back in the day, like, we would become adults quite quickly. You know what I mean? Like we'd leave our parents' place. We would like start working right away. We would like, get married really quickly, have kids, all this stuff. Whereas now it's like more and more people are kind of pushing this timeline out where we're, staying with our parents for a bit longer and, doing, being a bit more slow and, getting a career job, all of this kind of stuff. And one concept that he talked about, which was quite funny, is he was talking about like, okay, as you leave your parents' place and you're in like a hallway, you have doors, which are your options. And he was like, back in the day, you didn't really, you kind of just saw a door, you just took it. You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, perfect, happy with this, whatever. And then he's basically was saying like, because of this new concept of emerging adulthood is we're not like fully, back, in your early 20s, you're not like, you're an adult, but like not fully an adult, if you know what I mean. And it kind of gives you this extended opportunity to not have to commit to any doors, and you can kind of hang out in the hallway of a million doors,
Right.
So I was like, oh, that was
it's
kind
true.
of, it's like one of those like.
That is interesting. Because before there was no like emerging adulthood. You would just like go from kid to adult because you're just going from high school, and then you just get married and then have kids. Well,
this is exactly it. Like they would, and literally, and for women, like it's like for women, they didn't have the option to leave their parents' house until they had a partner to go live with them. So for them, there was no emerging out adulthood. It was you were a kid, then you're married, and you have kids. So like you didn't have that extended period where we're like more testing the waters and trying out different things. And of course, this concept is going to change the face of dating in that time, right? So as that started to become more and more of a trend, it's going to like drastically change how we date and also how we look for partners as well.
Yeah, totally. Very interesting. Very interesting.
I was just like, honestly, some of this stuff, I was just like, oh my God.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's why we just talked about this, but that's why we grow up so slowly now.
No.
I was talking to my mom the other day, and I was just like, I feel like people these days, we just don't grow up. We're just like, we're both in our 30s, and sometimes that's shocking to me.
I know. Because I think like, and we did talk about this earlier, but like, I think a big part of it as well, like, yes, we're in our 30s, and I'm just like, I still don't feel like I obviously I feel like an adult. Like I do, we do the hashtag adulting and everything else. But I think a big part of it is because we don't have kids. I feel like as soon as we have kids, like that's going to be like, okay, because like I think about how it's so weird, this whole concept. Like I just turned 32, right? So it was my birthday this week.
Oh, goddamn. Happy birthday, Daniels.
Oh, thank you.
How do you feel turning 32?
I honestly don't feel that different. You know what I mean? This is what I'm worried about. I'm like, okay, like not worried, but I'm like, I know how when I was in my 20s, I looked at people that were 32 and I was like, oh my God.
I know.
Like they're so old. They have their shit together. They're like parents. They're like, all of
They're
this.
like full on adults.
Exactly. So, and it's just... That's weird.
But maybe they felt the same way at that time. We don't know.
Yeah.
It just appears a certain way. But I do think it's interesting because I think like way back when, I think we talked about this in the last thing that we recorded, but I think it's important to discuss here. But like I was listening to an audiobook of something, and then they showed they played the audio clip of a man, I think back, I don't know, maybe in 1940s or 50s or something. And he was someone that was like, he sounded very adult, very just, like the olden age American way of speaking.
Yeah.
He was like speaking just, I don't know, just very adult. And he was like, I'm 25 years old. And I'm just like,
what?
Holy shit, you sound like you could be 40 right now.
Yeah.
Like even 40-year-olds don't talk like that right now.
He had
so
like
I think
a very mature sounding kind of voice, right? Yeah.
But maybe that's just the way they spoke at that time too. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? God damn.
Okay, next.
So the next kind of topic was around, I guess, okay, you've met somebody, you like them, whatever. Now it's like, well, the initial of like asking someone out and how that dynamic has changed a lot. And one of the interesting examples, and actually we've talked about this in another podcast, so it's quite interesting. This covers a few different areas of life, not just dating, but it's the drop of people being comfortable talking on the phone versus texting, or like using some kind of other form of social media to engage in conversation with somebody. So
very interesting.
The whole thing is like, okay, I think a lot of people, like if you would feel nervous, I think I would, I don't know about you, but like if I met somebody I liked and I had their number, I'm far more likely to text them and ask them out than to actually call them.
Yeah. Nobody calls anymore. I mean, I don't call anymore. Like if I'm calling you, we are probably very close, or I need to like make an appointment.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to call anybody.
It's interesting because I know when they did these focus groups as well as part of this book, he was saying like there was a divide here, especially with women, as to what they preferred, if they preferred to be called or text. And one person actually made a really good point. I noted it down here. She was saying like, okay, a lot of the women were like, if a guy called me, she would be like freaked out because she was like, nobody calls me unless it's like some serious issue. You know what I mean? Like it would just be weird. But then one girl was like, it indicates like, she was like, it indicates a better caliber of man, like that he's taking the initiative and, you know, putting himself out there and being willing to, put himself out there in fear of rejection.
Just being courageous, I guess. Yeah.
And she said like, she was, I just think it's kind of like she was saying it separates the people that were just like texting and stuff for a guy to actually pick up the phone and call. And then also she was saying like, you know, our concept, and I don't know how to articulate this properly. So you might have to assist me on this one, Rose, because I'm like all over the place today.
As always.
Yeah. Well, I have had a couple drinks. So,
goddamn, Daniel, when do you not have a couple drinks?
No,
we need to do another drunken podcast.
Oh yeah. Someone actually wrote in our Instagram, I think it was, and they were like, this is overdue. I think I posted one of us and I was like, we should do another one. And everyone's like, yes, do another one.
Oh my God. People just like us better when we're drunk. I don't know if this is a good thing.
Because we have fun when we're drunk, Rose. God damn.
I like to believe we be fun when we not be drinking, but you're right. We probably more fun when we be drinking.
I think we're fun 24/7.
Oh, God damn.
Oh, God damn.
The Southern Rose and Daniel come out more when we be drinking. That be true.
Have you been drinking as well, Rose? God damn.
Oh, I ain't been drinking. God damn.
Yeah. So the one example that they were using about how like text kind of separates you from like, and I don't know if this is a good example, but they were saying like, basically you wouldn't text like, if you were canceling dinner with like your parents or your grandparents, generally you would probably like, and I know this is like a different example, but you would pick up the phone and have a chat with them to like let them know. So she was like kind of like saying like by calling, it makes it seem like it's more not serious, but like the person's actually interested instead of just a quick text.
I think that's just based on the concept of calling. How do I say this? It's just subjective of the time frame that we're in.
Yeah.
That's her help me out. It's her
rationalization of the situation.
It's her it doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
It's just we communicate differently. And
exactly.
You're right. Like in some ways, because of the time that we live in, we have certain romanticization of our past ways of communication. And it, literally the same thing has always happened.
Yeah.
When, depending on the time that you're in, certain modes of communication were deemed as, not good because it's going to cause this problem and this problem.
Yeah.
Like even when the concept of writing came about, there was some issues with that. So this kind of stuff changes from generation to generation whenever a new mode of communication is introduced. There's going to be some problems with it. There's also going to be some good things about it. So
Definitely.
I don't think it's necessarily true that, just because somebody calls me, that means he cares about me more or like wants me more. That's just complete nonsense. It just depends on how comfortable that person is with calling. Like some people just, maybe they're just not used to calling people like,
exactly. Yeah. True.
You know what I mean?
No, I get that.
And but I mean, she's right that it does maybe say something about somebody if they're able to call versus text and, but it's just texting is now a very normal mode of communication. So that's what we do now.
True.
And I mean, I don't know. Because before, maybe when the telephone came out, maybe people still said, well, I would take you more seriously if you just came over to my house in person.
And knocked on the door. Yeah.
Exactly. But imagine if somebody came over to your house, somebody that you don't even know that well, came to your house, knocked on your door right now. It's just not appropriate for the time that we live.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but it's not.
It's so true.
You would think that person is a fucking psycho or, you know, stalking you.
That's so true. Because back in the day, like that would have been common, right? Like some guy would have been like, oh, can I ask Mary Jo Sue out or whatever? Ask the parents, you know, because I saw her walking and she's so beautiful.
Mary Jo Sue. Okay, continue.
Yeah. But it's interesting because, okay, so we talk about this like new form of communication, not new form, but it is a new form, texting and things.
It is. It's very new. Yeah.
It brings out this rise of, okay, for example, first of all, texting versus calling and also seeing someone in person. Texting is not a very forgiving medium. Do you know what I mean? Like for mistakes, for misinterpretations, because this is where I think that the texting world can be a absolute minefield. And also because of texting and WhatsApp and all of this stuff, we're getting into this cycle of instant gratification, right? So like we instantly want to hear back. And now there's become this whole like new concept of modern dating where I don't know if it's a new concept, but it's like, how long do I wait to text? Why haven't they responded to my text? What's going on? And you get this almost like this roller coaster of emotion because you get this high when you get a text from somebody, right? You're like, oh my God, they've messaged me or whatever. Then you text them and then you can see that they've read it or whatever else. And you're like, oh, well, they've read the message. They've been online.
Why didn't they respond?
Exactly.
Do they not like me?
Exactly. And then you start going through it. And then maybe 2 days later, you get a message back and say, oh, I'm sorry, I was really busy, blah, 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 blah. But you already have like all of these preconceived ideas in your head, like, oh, they don't like me. They're playing games with me. Like
I know it's crazy. It's crazy. I remember also like back when I was living in London, cause I was using WhatsApp obviously. And that's when the blue ticks came out for the first time.
Yeah,
so you know how like before they actually didn't have the red messages. So you couldn't tell if somebody had read your message. But then they started doing these blue ticks. And I swear to God, this is just like all of these modes of communication trying to fuck with us. Okay. Yeah. So then they gave these blue ticks. So now we can see when they fucking read the message. And I was like, oh my God. And this was when I was like actively like dating, casually dating. So I'd be like talking to like men and then like, I didn't open the message purposefully so that, you know, they don't see that I read it. And then sometimes I would send a message and I would see that they read it and they don't respond for like hours. And I'm like, what the fuck? So it's like, it fucks with your head.
Of course. It's like all of a sudden now we have this new facet of it is this instant gratification. And if you know that somebody's read it, you're like, oh, well, why haven't they responded? What's going on? Whereas like, it's funny because like in the book, they use an example of like classified ads in newspapers. So like back in the, during the like 70s or 80s, people would put like, I don't know if it maybe in the 90s as well, I'm not sure. And they would put like a classified ad in the paper. And one guy who they interviewed was like, yeah, I'd put a classified ad and then it would like have his phone number so people could call and leave like a voicemail or something. Or like
an ad for dating, right? Like an online ad for dating. Okay.
So I'd put in my ad, and this is where like a lot of the dating abbreviations came about as well, because you could only have so many words in the ads.
Oh my God! Yeah.
So you'd be like, I can't think of any off the top of my head at the moment, but like you know,
like
so
M for male or like shit like that. I can't remember. Yeah.
Like M for female, whatever. You know, like random stuff like this.
W
like male
for white or something.
Yeah. Exactly. And so this guy was like, yeah, I put this ad up, and he said, you know, there'd be like a number for the people to call, and then they could leave a voicemail for him. And he was like, yep, I put the ad up, and then he would check his voicemail like at the end of the week or maybe another week. So it would go like every week, not like this instant, like, and he was like, the rest of the week he was fine, not really thinking about it. Then would get excited, check them on Friday, and that was it. You know what I mean? There wasn't this whole like texting where it was like, oh my God, they've read my message. This extra kind of level of stress. Yeah. So it's like,
it's true. And
I was going to say, didn't you coin a term for when these blue ticks came out?
Oh, I called it the blue ticks of doom.
Yes. I remember, I thought it was death, but doom works too.
Oh, the blue ticks of doom.
Oh
because
God,
it's
Daniel,
it's
the
like
blue
doom.
Yeah.
Because you also don't want them to get the blue ticks, because I didn't want them to think that I read it and like, I'm ignoring them.
Ignoring them. Yeah.
But I also don't want to read it right away and respond right away. And it's like, it's just stressful because sometimes it's so stupid because I'm like, okay, I'm busy, so I'm not going to respond immediately, but I see that I got the message. So there's really nothing wrong with me reading the message, but because I know that the other person, because the mode of communication is just so, it's very, it's very shallow. Like you don't get much out of this, right? So you don't know what the other person is going through. You don't know what is happening. So all you're doing is just seeing that they've read the message. That's all. Like that literally just means they opened up the goddamn, messaging app. Okay.
Exactly.
But then all of these ideas are going through the other person's head. Like, did they read it? Why did they not respond? Are they busy or are they ignoring me? So that's, it's just blue ticks of doom. Blue ticks of doom. Who made up with who did this? Okay.
I know.
They're like, let's fuck with people.
Exactly.
They're already having a hard time dating. Let's just fuck with people.
Exactly.
Let's just make them more stressed and make them more addicted to this app so that they're constantly on it, checking if they've read the message.
Exactly. And that whole level of instant gratification and, you know, getting those blue ticks instantly, oh my God, and
they read it. Oh my God. And then you can see them typing.
Yeah. Oh, this is the worst. You don't need to know. You don't need to know that somebody's, because then you'll see them type. Let's say you're on WhatsApp, right? And you're chatting with somebody. Because I've had this happen before where I'd be like, I see the blue ticks. They've read my message. And then I see them typing. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm just and
then they stop.
And then they stop typing. And then they're typing again. And then they stop. And then no message gets sent. And I'm like,
oh, goddamn.
What were you writing? Why did you stop writing? Why did you not send me a message? And you honestly, you have.
And then you're like, should I send another message or am I going to sound crazy?
Exactly. Well, this is another thing too. It's like, how many messages should I send? Do you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden now, if I send a couple messages, is this too many? Have I crossed the line? Have I sent one? And I'm really bad because I've gotten into this habit. I remember when I first started texting, I would send block texts. You know what I mean? Like one SMS or whatever. And now with WhatsApp, I'll text as I'm thinking. So I'll write a sentence, send it, write something else, send it. And it will be 5 or 6 different WhatsApp messages. But you know what I mean? I rarely write.
I think most people do that now.
Yeah. So, I mean, does that make me look crazy if I keep sending a guy these messages? I don't know.
Oh, God. Oh, God. And another thing that you mentioned is texting is less forgiving because it's just not a very good form of communication to actually convey who you are, right? Because it's it's just a written few words. You're not going to actually get to know anybody over text. And Daniel's a great example because he's the worst texter in the world.
I am not. I don't know where you got this
Daniel, you're pretty bad
Rose.
at texting. If I could just communicate through Daniel through text, it would be a very bad friendship because I would just be like, is he I don't know. There's something about the way you text. I don't know. You sometimes just seem uninterested. Yes, you've gotten a bit better, but I feel sometimes I'm just but then when I talk to you, it's very different, right? Because it's just and it doesn't mean that you're uninterested. It's just not everyone texts the same and it's just writing a few words. And one of the things that I'm definitely guilty of is being the grammar Nazi.
It's just so true. Oh my God.
So when I'm maybe potentially, about to date somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to them over text. And if their grammar is bad, it's an instant turn off.
Yeah.
Obviously, to some extent it's okay. But if it's really bad, I'm like, oh my God. And I don't even know this person.
Exactly. Well, this is the thing that they mentioned as well is a lot of people will jump to these conclusions from text messages, such as grammar, such as this stuff. And I didn't know that I'm a very uninterested texter. So this is something I need to work on because maybe this is oh my God, Rose, this is
no, maybe it's just toward me because you already know me. So I'm sure if you text other guys, I'm sure you sound fine. I
don't know though. Maybe this is a therapy session for me. I'm getting all this good.
It's not that I just feel your personality it doesn't shine in text, right? So, and I've had the same opposite where I've met guys or people that are really, colorful over text and they seem like they have a really big personality. And then I meet them and it's the other way around. They're actually quite shy and they don't really talk much. So it's a way of communication that doesn't showcase who you actually are.
Exactly.
And we should be treading lightly when it comes to texting because we can't rely on it so much as a communication platform.
And I agree with that. And I think a big thing about texting as well, and I just thought of this, it's kind of like when you read a novel. Do you know what I mean? Let's say we're reading a novel or a book or whatever. There's words on the page, right? They're to convey a certain message, but everyone's going to envision and imagine this book in different ways slightly. The forest could look different, whatever else. And so I think especially when like guys or girls or whoever's texting, we take the text message and then from the pictures or whoever else that we've kind of interactions that we've had, we start to build our idea of who this person is. And that's why the text is dangerous, because we start to think of them in a certain way and we imagine the way that they would say it to us if we haven't met them yet. And we build up this person. You're right. Then you meet them and it could be completely different than how we had imagined them from their text, because it is an imagination because we don't know them at all. So I think that that's why another kind of, rule or thing that was mentioned in the book as well is it's better to not do the back and forth with the messages for too long before you meet somebody from online dating. This is more for online dating, but like if you've never met the person before and you're conveying back and forth, I think it was like a total of 6 messages is best back and forth or something. If this was like the best amount. But after that, you should try to meet them in person, because otherwise you're going to start building this person up or this idea of who this person is without actually meeting them. And that's true. I think that's dangerous, you know?
Yeah, I never liked to text too much because I'm like, first of all, ain't nobody got time. Okay, I don't want to be sitting on my phone all day long, not meeting somebody. Yeah. That's just a waste of time. Like, imagine you talk to someone for like 3 weeks over text, and then you meet them and they're just like nothing like you wanted, and then you've just wasted 3 weeks of your life fucking glued to your phone.
Well, exactly. But this is this is going to be another thing I'm going to do when I'm in Calgary. Is I'm going to put myself out there and
6 messages might be a little too little, though.
Yeah,
I gotta find out if they're gonna kill me first.
That's
okay,
true.
I gotta find out.
And I think this is us from experience as well, because like I know I've been like saying, oh, I need to be more open and stuff, but I have gone out with some frickin' weirdos, okay? Like, and I'm not being mean or anything, but I have had some horrible dates. And I think
if you want to listen to our dating stories, our worst dating stories, you can listen to them on our Patreon.
Yeah, that's a Patreon exclusive, guys, because that is something I'm not going to put on. We're not going to put out on the public domain.
Oh God.
But yeah, like, it's there's so many difficulties with online. There's so many pros and so many cons.
I know.
And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, on to online dating now. We're moving on. So we talked about the text messages and kind of went into online dating a little bit. But another concept that the book talked about, which I really like, and I truly believe in this, is now we have like almost like I don't know if I truly believe for sure, but we have 2 selves, right? We have our real self here in the moment, and then we have our digital self. Right. And who we convey ourselves. And like most people, I think it will be pretty similar, but there was some examples they were using where like, people were getting so tired of online dating and like doing all this stuff that they would just start to become very, like aggressive and forward. So like saying things to people or like an example, like, one guy, like guys might be super forward with a girl in a message, like, oh, do you want to come back to my place? Or you have a great, rack or something. Yeah. But those same guys would never even think about doing that in person to somebody. Yeah. Or like another example is like, let's say I'm on Tinder and I see that a guy likes, I don't know. What's something I really don't like? I don't know. I don't know. He likes hunting, for example. Hunting's a good one, because Calgary, people go hunting. So he's a hunter. And so I see that in his profile or I see a picture and I'm automatically get rid of him. You know what I mean? Like,
but that's a pretty good, that's not an example of a digital self versus a real self, is it?
That's true. No. What I'm meaning is, this is, okay. I know where I was going with this concept, Rose. Bear with me, okay?
Okay. Maybe hunting is not the best example.
No, that's not a good example. Let's say he likes, like, I don't know.
He likes chess. You don't like chess. He likes chess.
Exactly. There's a better example. He likes chess. So I see that in Instagram or on Tinder or whatever. So I'm automatically like, nope, see you later. Or it comes up chatting with him on Instagram and right away he brings that up and I just phase him out. Do you know what I mean? I just start like not really talking to him. But the funny thing is the real self, and this is where they said there's like, sometimes this is a dangerous concept because when you're at a bar, just because you might meet somebody and actually really like them and, get to know them and everything else and find out later that they like chess. And on Tinder and our digital self would have rejected them right away. But if we take the time to get to know them a little bit better, maybe we would have given them a bit more of the time of day,
Right, of course. And also the concept that, for example, like if you're just on your phone and you can just swipe left, right, or reject and accept or whatever it is, you can just easily do that with just like one piece of information, like you said, like chess or whatever it is. But if I were in a bar talking to somebody, I wouldn't just walk out the door. I would still have to keep talking to them, just like because of social, norm. Even if I'm like turned off or not wanting to, but I would still continue the conversation.
Exactly.
And I mean, this goes on. This is relevant for every aspect of online versus reality in terms of not just dating, but even just like for example, like online personas, like social media, influencers, for example, people just write them off if they just do or say one thing that might be a little bit offensive. But think about how many conversations you had with people where you don't agree with what they say, or they say something like kind of crazy or a little bit offensive, but you don't just immediately be like, you're a bad person,
Exactly.
Because you see a person is a very well-rounded individual. Like there's so many aspects to one individual. So but then the digital world, you have to kind of, I guess, dumb it down a little bit and label people as, this or that, good or bad, dateable or not dateable.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more complicated than that. So that's interesting.
No, I agree. There's multi facets to an individual, right? And that's why I think one of the disadvantages or dangers of our digital selves and, these dating apps and everything else is we are very quick to write people off. You know what I mean? We're very quick to, we see a picture and they have like a sports jersey of a team that we don't like. We're like, no. Or you know what I mean? Like we kind of like, we're very quick.
I'm so guilty of this.
Yeah. Well, we both are. I've done it as well. And it was interesting because like when I was listening to this book, I was like, oh my God, like so many examples of things that they were talking about was things that I have done as well. It's like, I think that, our digital selves just become like, we kind of become a little bit savage, to be honest. Like, when we get, especially, I think it's just because I don't know.
It's easier to reject online. It's easier to reject over this phone than in person, which 100%. Is why I think one of the things that they talked about was that so many people so many people have broken up with somebody over, the phone or like over text.
Yeah.
And I mean, I haven't broken up with somebody over text, but I've definitely like rejected over text.
Yeah.
And like, because you wouldn't call them, but it's easier to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas in person, it would be a lot harder to be like, I'm not into you.
Exactly. Because again, like you said before, it's like when we're our digital selves, it's like a different, but when you see the person in like reality, it's like, that's a real person. It's not somebody just behind a keyboard, So
exactly.
I think it becomes so easy. And I think, the whole like rejection thing, like I've had so many instances where like, well, not so many, but I've had a few where I've been like talking to somebody on Tinder and just been like talking to them. And all of a sudden, like, I don't even know what I said because all of a sudden, like sometimes people can just like unmatch you. Yeah. And I'll like go through and I'll be like, oh, okay, well, I guess I don't know what I said or did there. They've just unmatched me.
Right.
Okay, cool. You know what I mean? So, and I think people
haven't you done the same? Have you ever unmatched people like that?
Not like, no.
I've definitely done that.
What I've done because what I did before when I was in London, right? So like I'd have like a lot, like several matches, like I'd have quite a lot. And I would message because the thing is for a while I was like, oh, I'm just going to like see if somebody messages me or whatever else. And I'd get a few messages here and there, but then I was like, okay, I'm going to start like being more proactive about this. I'm going to start putting myself out there. Why should they have to message me? Maybe I'm going to message them. So I started sending out messages and then I'd start unmatching people if like, a couple
they don't respond.
Exactly. A couple weeks went by and I never heard anything. So then I'd just be like, okay. Or if they did say something really weird, then I'd be like, okay, see you later.
Yeah. Oh God. Basically people have become disposable essentially with these online dating apps and literally you could just swipe left on somebody. Like it's that easy.
It's so funny that you say that because there's another concept in the book and I'm definitely, we're gone off the notes and everything. We're just kind of like freestyling here. But one of the concepts that they brought up was the idea of like these profiles and the way that we date now is treating people more like a product than a person. So it's like, you can select these things like, and they said an interesting thing. So, and I want to get your thoughts on this. They were like, okay, let's say I was looking for a certain type, like what I had in my mind of what my certain type is. I was like, okay, he's 6'1", dark hair, like sports, blah, 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 blah. I have a list of criteria that narrow my search down. So I only see people that are based on that criteria. The interesting thing is, let's say I go out to a bar and I meet somebody that's completely not my type, somebody that I would never have come up with in my matches, and end up dating them and having a really good relationship. So it's like you start to take the what do they say? It's like you take the personal element out of it, and you're treating people like you're grocery shopping. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you're picking out something in a catalog, which you cannot pick out in a catalog because you can't define human relationships in that way. You can't, and you're so right, because I remember even ever since I was younger, everyone has like a certain idea of who they might want, right?
Exactly,
they might, like you said, like they want somebody that's 6 feet tall and this and this and this. But how often do people actually end up dating or marrying that kind of dream of who they might want to be attracted to? So many people end up being attracted to people that are complete opposite of what they think that they want.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So it's an interesting one because like we think, and this sounds really weird, like we think we know what we want, right? We're like, okay, we have these criteria that we are looking to. And you're right, like so many people, like, and there's been many of my friends that have said to me, like, people that they've dating, they're like, woof, I honestly never thought I would be with this person. It just happened. And, we're actually really in love and I really love this guy or girl, whoever it is. But it's funny because if I had met them, I would have never met them online dating because they would never have been in my criteria. So
that's so sad.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting one because like we both have our things. Like I have my kind of things that I think that I like, you know what I mean? That I think that I want in a partner. But like, you're right. I mean, really, I don't really know until I've met somebody, you know what I mean? Until I've met that person. I can say, oh, I like X, Y, Z. But yeah, I guess, I don't know.
That because human connection is not something that you can just put on a catalog.
Exactly.
So it's like, even if somebody might meet some sort of physical criteria or even like, some sort of, whatever it is, some sort of criteria that I put, if we don't have a connection, then we don't have a connection. We don't have any, like I'm not going to be attracted to you.
Exactly. Like you could have on yours, for example, you want a guy that's vegan, that's 6'1", that's athletic, that's all of this stuff. And he could tick all those boxes and you could not have anything, like you could not feel like, a connection at all.
Yeah.
So
sad.
I know.
So are we doomed, Daniel? Are we doomed?
No, I don't think we're doomed doomed, but I do think like part of the stuff that I wanted to take from this particular book and things that are like more like learning experiences and like try to fine tune my dating in hopes to find somebody, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not that we're doomed, but like you said before, it's like we're looking for something that's a lot harder to get.
Right.
So I think that we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves as a society. If we end up being in our 30s and we're still single, looking for love and everything else, there's nothing wrong with that because actually what we're looking for is not those marriages of convenience, those kind of older generation of how they were married. We're looking for something where we do want to find, somebody that's quite compatible with us, maybe our life partner. And that takes time, you know what I mean? And that's it's not gonna happen overnight for most people. So I think.
Or Daniel, so the way that I took, I mean, you're totally right. Like what you're saying is right. But also the one of the lessons that I took was that we need to be realistic with some of our expectations rather than, because we have this like idea of this like perfect marriage and perfect family and perfect person. And I think that of course there needs to be some level of compatibility, but we have to realize that like most people that we meet are not going to be some sort of like, knight in shining armor. Like they're not going to be, this amazing, fantastical, perfect individual that we get along with all the time.
Yeah.
So I think we need to kind of also, not be hard on ourselves, but also understand that, maybe what we're looking for is not realistic.
No, that's true. I think there's twofold for me. It's that it's like thinking about realistically what is achievable and what I can get.
Daniel, you can get whatever you want. Okay.
That sounds bad. No, but you're right. Like figuring out and being a bit more realistic with our expectations. And I think also another thing that I took from this is again, like, coming up with more of a strategy. Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily a strategy, but like to kind of, look at because there's definitely a lot of pros to online dating and the modern dating world. There's a lot of cons. And I think by like identifying and figuring out what some of these are and looking at my own personal experience and how I've dated, I can take that as a learning experience. Cause they always say there's like that expression where they're like, the definition of being crazy is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So like
the definition of insanity.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you. So if I'm going to be like if I move back to Calgary and do exactly what I was doing in London, exactly what I've done, well, not so much what I've done in Spain, but exactly what I did in Calgary before and expect to have different results, then I might as well sign myself up to the loony bin. You know what I mean? So, I think, I think it's just important to, but I do think you're right about expectations. I think, and I don't know if it's a Hollywood thing as well, or like the images that we see conveyed in the media as well about these families and love and everything else. So. It's so like much more romanticized. Do you know what I mean? It's like this kind of like amazing. And that's why a lot of people like jump from relationship to relationship and are never alone and stuff. I feel like because they always need that. Well, that might be a different issue as well.
I think that might be a different issue, but like, to jump because people, again, we never know. A part of me is like, the reason why I'm like, are we doomed is because I'm like, when you know how they say like ignorance is bliss. So it's like, if you already have this expectation and this romantic idea of what you want, and you see it all over Hollywood, and you see it in other other relationships, like we talked about on our social media episode, you see it on social media, you see these like seemingly perfect relationships. So then that's what you know could happen. You're like, that could be me. So then it's going to take a lot of work to kind of unlearn that kind of idea that you need to be in this perfect, amazing relationships. Because we could sit here all day long and talk about, all the ways in which we romanticize, but can we actually put that into our practice? And can we actually unlearn those behaviors? Because I do find it hard when I'm like dating and stuff, because sometimes I'm like, am I really not compatible with this person? Or do I have this idea of a perfect relationship? So it's hard to find the real answer, and I don't know if there is a real answer, but it's hard.
It's such a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Like it is.
But I think it's important that we have these discussions and learn about this, because we can learn from our own biases that we may not realize that we have.
Yeah.
And our own ways of doing things.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think
goddamn.
Goddamn.
Oh goddamn. Oh goddamn.
No, and I think it is good to talk about this stuff, and it is good to like, that's why I really did enjoy this book as well, because it is eye-opening, because he's like, it's not just him saying these things. He does focus groups and everything else, talking about these different concepts and other people's experiences with it. And it's so funny because of so much of the stuff that happens. I'm like, oh my God, I so relate to this, because this is exactly some of the experiences that I've had. And when they start talking about maybe like ways to maybe improve your success rate, or have a better experience dating, it's like some of the stuff I've never even like practiced, like the idea of like the fact, like, because I'm so guilty, we mentioned this earlier in this episode, but like the fact of writing people off too quickly, I'm so bad at that, and that's something that I know now that I need to work on, to kind of it's not even about giving people a chance, it's just like spending a bit more time with those individuals for a potential connection, and not just writing them off because a date wasn't a 10 out of 10, it was only a 6, but
oh God,
I think a big part of that though is part of the reason, another like facet to bring into this whole freaking modern.
By the way, we're definitely going to do a part 2, because we are definitely not going to finish discussing this.
I know there's still so much to talk about.
Yeah, that was just the beginning.
I know, like I feel like we've just started to scratch the surface, but another reason why I think we're easy to write people off and constantly be looking for this perfection, or like constantly striving for this perfect, like you said, we have this, oh my God, what am I trying to say? We have this idea of what we want and this notion, and we keep, if somebody doesn't deliver it to us right away, we're like, okay, again, is it the fact that I'm not compatible with this person, or, what is it? Do you know what I mean? So, and I think a problem with that is the fact that one of the pros, but also a con of online dating, is that it opens you up to so many more people. Do you know what I mean? So you have this kind of like, and this brings us to the
paradox of choice.
Yes.
Is that what we're going to say?
Exactly. The paradox of choice. Because if you think about it, like Tinder, Plenty of Fish, Bumble, Hinge, all of these apps now all of a sudden opens you up from, in a lot of ways it's good, because we, like, as we're getting older, our social circles they close up a little bit, and it's harder to meet people outside of your kind of networks, and their networks do get naturally a little bit smaller. And so online dating opens you up to people that maybe you wouldn't have met outside, like in your friendship group, and it's like new and exciting people. But at the same time, now all of a sudden you have so much choice, like this explosion of choice. And
they say that when you have so much choice, you end up, I think they did a few studies on this where basically, this brings us to the jam theory.
Oh, goddamn.
So let's talk about my favorite theory, which is the jam theory.
This is Rose's. Rose, you get buckled into your seat. Get ready to talk about
we're going to talk about the jam theory. Guys.
Damn.
So the jam theory, I don't know if it's called the jam theory, but basically they did this, I guess, experiment.
Yeah.
I don't want to say study because I don't think it was a scientific study,
No.
but it was an experiment where they set up inside like a store in a mall or something. They set up a stall and they were giving out samples of jam. And obviously people could buy the jam if they, liked tasting the samples. So they had two different scenarios where one scenario they had maybe like 5 flavors of jam.
Yeah.
And then they let people taste it, sample it, and then, they would see how many people bought it. And then another scenario was they had like 25 flavors of jam that people could taste. And the interesting thing was that when people had the 5 flavors of jam, so many more people bought the jam despite less people actually coming to taste the samples. So what that means is when people had more choices of jam, more people tried the jam, a lot more people tried the different flavors of jam, but less people bought it because of the fact that they were the explanation was that if there's more choice, it's overwhelming and people don't want to make the wrong decision. So they'd rather just not make the decision at all, which is the main problem that we're facing with the current dating scenario.
No, and goddamn, which makes so much sense though, right? Like, and this goes back to what I was just saying about the dates, right? So let's say I'm on Tinder, go on a date with somebody. The date's a 6 out of 10. It was okay. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't fantastic either. Now, I have one of 2 options, right? I could either go out with this guy again or never again, right? And a lot of the time, so I look at my phone, right? I'll say, okay, well, I have 5 other matches with some other people who might be 10 out of 10. So this 6 out of 10 date that I just went on, I don't have time to go out with you again. I'm going to try the next one and try the next one and the next one. And you're constantly like having this like battle of this, finding this good, fantastic sparks a date that's like amazing and like incredible and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I don't know. It's in many ways, it's a good thing. Like, cause we have more choice and more options.
Is it a good thing? I don't know if this part's a good thing.
Yeah, true. I don't know. It's like with anything in life though. You think about it. Like if you went to a restaurant, right? It's like with anything in life, you go somewhere and if you have so many options, it becomes so much harder to actually make like a distinct decision on anything.
Yeah. So, this is well studied. And another thing that was, another thing that they mentioned, I don't know about here, but this is another concept. Basically, if you have too much choice, then that means you also are going to be, you're going to have a harder time making the decision. Yeah. But also, you might be you will be less satisfied with that decision that you made. They did a study with, it was like college graduates or something.
You'll have buyer's remorse
or whatever it is, because the thing, that's why they say like the ignorance is bliss thing. It's like, if you don't know what else is out there, you're just going to assume that what you have is fine. Like everything is fantastic. Everything is perfect. But if you know for a fact that, like, for example, let's say I thought that I could only choose between like 5 men, right? For dating. Okay. And then I chose one guy and then like, you know what? There's not really much else out there. So it's fine. Like I'm fine. But if you know that there's like 100 men out there, then you know for a fact, if you're dating somebody and it's like maybe not as like beautiful as you imagined, then you just think, oh, I'm missing out on something. So it's that FOMO idea, the idea of fear of missing out that, plays out in so many aspects of our lives. It's not just with dating, but
100%. It's with a lot of stuff.
With so many different elements, right?
I think
I was
going to say, I think they brought it up with like careers as well. Like when you finish university or something, or like,
there was a study done. I'm trying to think about the study. So there was a study done where they interviewed people or something that graduated from university, and the people that chose the jobs. Damn it! I wish I could remember. Do you remember this?
I can't. I remember it was about like. Hang on, let me just think.
College graduates that chose jobs that, if they had a lot of choices between the jobs.
Oh God, I can't remember it either.
I think it was that people that had more choices between jobs. Sorry if this is wrong, but people that had more choices to choose a job would obviously pick, whatever that they thought was the best choice. Yeah. But then they would be less satisfied later down the line versus people that had smaller choices, but even made less money or something along those lines. It was something like that. Guys, listen to the book, okay?
Yeah. I wish I remember that because that was a really good point. I remember there was a concept called the satisficer versus maximizer.
Yes. Okay, so the maximizer. Do you have it written down?
I just put satisficer versus maximizer.
You are the worst note taker ever. Okay, I'm going to read it. I found an article, so I think I can find it. Soulmate versus laundry detergent. What? Okay. In theory, more options are better, right? Wrong. Psychology professor Barry Schwartz, famous for his book, The Paradox of Choice, he actually has a book, divided us into two types of people. Satisficers, those who satisfy then suffice, and maximizers who seek out the best. So, so basically the concept is that if you are a maximizer, you're constantly looking for the best of the best, but you are much less likely to be happy with your decision because 100%. You always think there's something better. So I think even in like, not just with dating, but even, I would like to see, I think I'm a maximizer. And that probably means that I'm never going to be satisfied.
Oh God. Yeah. Cause I have a little definition here for satisficers. Satisficers are individuals who are pleased to settle for a good enough option, not necessarily the very best outcome in all resorts. A satisficer is less likely to experience regret, even if a better option presents itself after a decision has already been made.
So maybe that's something that, maybe we're creating a world of maximizers.
I think we are.
Yes, and we are, because of, I don't know, maybe capitalism and marketing and
social media.
We want somebody that constantly wants better things.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of different factors that are contributing. And you're right, it's not just an issue with our modern day dating. It's also an issue with jobs. It's an issue with think about like where you want to live now and stuff like this. It's like we have so many options available to us at our fingertips that it gets to the point where it's like, especially if we're becoming more and more of us are becoming maximizers, there's going to be a lot of less happy people, or not necessarily happy, but like less satisfied people that are always kind of constantly striving for that. Which can lead to some unhappiness. You know what I mean? Because if you're constantly like feeling like you're not doing good enough, or like feeling like you can, in some ways it can drive you, but in other ways it can drive you crazy,
Yeah, totally. No, yeah. So now I remember. So the college thing was basically the maximizers were people that went and looked for the best of the best job, and then they got that best of the best job, or whatever. They got a really good job. They ended up getting a better job than the satisficers who ended up getting, let's say, like less money, right? And like maybe less of a whatever great job. But what they found was that later on down the line, they saw that the satisficers were much happier with their job, even though they were getting paid less. So it's the same concept with dating and romance, I guess.
Exactly.
People that are constantly looking for the better thing may never be satisfied.
I know, but honestly, like when you when you think about this stuff, it just makes logical sense. Like the whole idea of this, the choice paradox, and all of this stuff. Like, it's sad. It's really sad, but true. This is the realities of modern dating now, and the kind of direction that our society in general is going with. And I think all of these things are feeding into this machine, like instant gratification as well. All of this, like go. It's like it's opened up a world to us, but also it's opened up so many options, choices, everything. It's getting crazy as all hail in tarnation.
It's getting crazy as all hail. Yeah. Well, I think one thing that we can take away from it is like, well, I think it's good to know that, constantly looking for the best may not be the best option.
Exactly.
So maybe we can learn to become more of a satisficer than we are. Like I've definitely learned that as well. I mean, even with like where I live, for example, because I used to think like I used to always constantly want to go and like live in the best place and like be in somewhere cool and constantly look for that kind of, the one-up thing, like, oh, what's better than here?
Yeah.
But then, I'm back in good old Calgary, It's not the most exciting place. But at the same time, it's like, was I so much happier in London? Not necessarily.
Exactly.
So I've kind of learned to be like, okay, you in life, you can't have it all.
No, it's so true. And I think you're right. Like by talking about this stuff and like reflecting on it and looking at our own lives and how we've been impacted. That's why I really loved, again, this book and like talking about this now. It's like reflecting on my own dating experiences and being like, I know that I have some things that I also need to work on when I get back to Calgary, re-enter the dating world. So just kind of, it's a journey. It's a journey of self-discovery and growth, Rose.
Oh, goddamn, Daniel, we'd be talking for an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, goddamn.
Should we wrap this up? And then we can continue this conversation.
Yes. So thank you so much for listening, guys. So this is part 1 of, I don't know how many parts this is going to be.
How many? We'll probably be discussing something like this for many episodes, perhaps.
Exactly, yeah. Because it's a fun one. It's like, I mean, I feel like
we could read another book as well about this kind of, topic. I'll look for another one.
Yeah, because I think it's so like, I don't know why. I just find it so interesting. Probably because I'm single and we've both experienced dating and everything else. And like, I don't know, it's fun. And I think a lot of people can relate. So definitely.
And I like the study of human behavior.
Me too.
I like sociology or, just studying how we are.
Exactly. Well, that's why we love, like, we were talking about this in other episodes, but like gender, masculinity, sexuality, these are all like studies of people, and it's fascinating to like learn more about us. Do you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, definitely give us a thumbs up if you are watching on YouTube and you like the video. Comments, obviously, in the comment section. Say hi.
Leave us your like love stories if you have some,
or some tips or suggestions. Suggestions for me.
Oh, goddamn, Daniels.
Oh, goddamn! And don't forget to subscribe.
Yes, don't forget to subscribe, listen to us, follow us on all of our platforms. Check us out on Patreon if you haven't already. Yeah. And thank you so much for listening, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.